So today I'm doing some meal prep for the humans in the family and some dog training for the dogs of the family. The reason why I'm doing this is every couple of weeks I do a large amount of meal prep, which keeps me and my family going, makes it a little bit easier than cooking every night. Now, it's a great training opportunity because we can teach your dogs how to relax around food, how to cope when food is dropped on the floor and to not eat that, and make it a lot less stressful for you when you are in the kitchen or working around food when you have a pet dog. Now, when I'm training with this, I've used just force-free training, positive reinforcement only, verbally, and the occasional treat. How did we get that? We started when he was a puppy. Now, if anyone knew Oreo back then, he was about 4 months old and he used to jump up on the counter, he used to try and steal food, he would bark and scream, he would body slam into your fingers into the cupboards. He was just a total nightmare. He was obsessed with food, he was growing quite fast at the time, and he just thought everything was his. So what we started with was making it a nice, easy scenario for him. We were chopping up imaginary food. We were chopping up things on the counter, we were moving things, doing the dishes, anything like that that involved working around the kitchen. Now at those points, when he naturally chose to move away and lie down on his own accord, we would then reinforce that verbally or by quietly placing a treat on the floor next to him. The reason why we're placing a treat on the floor next to him is to reinforce that down and relax situation. The reason why we've not asked him to go to a mat or lie down or relax, that is again because what happens is your dogs end up poised on a trick or a command and they're waiting for a release cue. It can be quite frustrating for the dogs and it can be very difficult to add duration to that without constantly reinforcing the dog or reminding the dog to stay there. Because when I do meal prep, I could be here for about an hour and a half, 2 hours easily. And there's no way I'm going to ask a dog to lie and stay on there for 2 hours with no reinforcement, no mental stimulation, no nothing. So he can lie here by choice, or he can go into the living room, or he can go outside. All the doors are open, he can leave if he wants. The reason why he's lying here is because once in a blue moon these days, he might get a little bit of a reinforcement or a little bit of training opportunities, which he quite enjoys. So when he's lying here, I want him to naturally settle on his own. He also has to learn that he cannot take food from the counter or food that is dropped on the floor. Initially, I would use a leave it cue for that, and then I would progress to not using the cue again so that his automatic response is that he does not try and steal any dropped food off of the counter. Whether I've told him to or not, it should just be automatic that he does not take food that has dropped from the counter or that is on the counter. So we would initially have taught a leave it with low level value to food and reinforcing that verbally or with his treats away from the fallen food, and then start varying our reinforcement and giving him less treats per repetition until we don't need to reinforce that every time because it's become an automatic response again. So if I was to drop food, so say we've got offcuts of vegetables, which is safe anyway. If I throw that, he shouldn't go for that. I can then collect the food, put it away in the bin, and every so often he can have one of his own treats on the floor as a reinforcement. But again, you shouldn't need to reinforce that every time. So again, I can just drop things off the counter and he shouldn't go for that. Now, he is welcome to move off that mat if he wants to. I'm not stopping him. He can stay there or he can not stay there. But he's choosing to stay there because it's comfortable. He might get odd reinforcement and he gets to be with me while I'm in the kitchen and remain safe. If your dog wasn't at this level and you were struggling, you would add in a bit more management for this. So you'd have your dog on the lead, or you would have your dog behind a baby gate or a further distance from you, or you would start with no food on the counter and then building up having food on the counter for them. and then progressing thereafter until you can get to this situation. It didn't take me long because Spaniels are quite smart, they pick up quite fast. The terrier, she's away somewhere else. Again, she can choose to stay here if she wants. If she doesn't, she can go and lie down on her sofa, which is what she would prefer to do anyway. So I hope this has helped. And this, once they can do this situation, it makes it a lot easier for when you start training them how to relax when you are eating food, when you're going to cafes, when you have visitors round. Anytime you want your dog to naturally settle around any exciting environment. Once they've got these sort of skills, it's quite easy to generalise that onto other scenarios and situations to remain keeping your dog safe and under control when you need them to be, without you constantly having to annoy them, ask them, or potentially increase any frustration that they may have. So I hope that has helped, and I thought I'd give you a nice idea of what to do when you're working with your dogs. And while we're cooking and preparing food, it's just a nice little training exercise that he can do every couple of weeks, and it keeps everything nice and sharp and fresh. So I hope that's helped, and keep an eye out for our next video.